One final preview before this game against Nicholls State. TCU, can they bounce back in a big way? Man, we hope so. What do we want to see from the defense? All that and more coming up next. This is Locked On Horned Frogs.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right. Locked On Horned Frogs. Frogs take on Nicholls State Saturday night at 7 p.m. That game on ESPN+. We're doing something fun today. It's called TCU Fan Corner. We've done this in the past. And I'm always open to people coming on. I come from a radio background, so I'm used to having like callers on shows. And if you want to do a show with me, you can hit me up in the YouTube comments, tweet at me at SimcockSteven. We'll get it going. But next to me is Richard Berry. Richard reached out to me, I guess about a week ago, and he said, hey, I'd love to see more just interaction with people kind of in this format. And so we got this going today. So Richard, I guess for the people, what's your TCU journey? Like, how did you become a fan? What's your background? And when did you start following the team closely?
Well, for me, I grew up in a small town just west of Fort Worth in Mineral Wells, and I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to college football up until maybe that 2010 season when they shocked in the bowl game, and then we had I was in the military, so I was deployed just about every football season. And you get three channels, and mostly with the three channels, it's either the game of the week or news or weather. So 2014 I wasn't deployed. I happened to be in Jacksonville, Florida, where I lived for 8 years, and I just happened to catch the magic success of that season. Just watched them run, and Trevon Boykin, and how he really kind of took over the TCU school, and man, they were just dominating. Unfortunately, the Baylor game, and then obviously they got snubbed. But ever since then, I paid really, really close attention. I was getting out of the military in 2016, so I was able to, lock into fandom. I was a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, so it was hard to pay attention to TCU and Dallas because Dallas has so much media coverage.
Right.
And one of the things that led me to your podcast is last year, obviously the team had great success, and I was looking for more neutral coverage. I didn't want the flash in the can, like, hey, TCU can win if they do this, or they really suck. Like, really, a lot of people on a lot of podcasts would say is like they're not for real. So I found your podcast, and I was able to listen to it, and it was pretty unbiased. You had a really, really neutral opinion of the team and how they were doing and what you would expect. I mean, obviously, we didn't see what was going to happen with Georgia.
Right.
And, it was a huge letdown with the Michigan game being the highlight of that season.
Mm-hmm.
And then, last week, we had Colorado on deck, and they, unfortunately, they didn't pull through. And for whatever reason, they just didn't seem like they kind of were up to the challenge. And you didn't really see that coming. I didn't, especially with Johnny Hodges talking. So.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I was surprised at the fact that they were so caught off guard. But now we turn our attention to this game, and we won't focus too much on the opponent. But I guess, and I was talking about this with Michael Pevia on Friday, one of Friday's shows. But what do you want to see from the Frogs, especially defensively, like outside of the final score, just hopefully being a big win? What do you want to see differently from this team this week after that loss to Colorado last weekend?
Well, we know it's at home. So one of the things that I would like to see is last week you're at home. Last week you had a lot of pre-snap penalties on offense. So can that get cleaned up? Can you come out there, run your fast offense, which is something that was being practiced, in the offseason? Can you run the fast offense? Can you not have the pre-snap penalties? And does it look good? Can Chandler throw the deep ball? Can he drop it in the bucket? And really just kind of break away from the intermediate passes. I'm not sure what the coaches are willing to show because they enter Big 12 play the following week.
Yeah.
And, I mean, honestly, even with the bad TCU years, TCU generally takes care of these teams with, 50 to 17, depends on who's playing at the end of the game. And I just really want to see some development from the pre-snap penalties and then just tackling. You shouldn't be missing tackles against this team. Now, they're going to have some athletes like everybody, but you should really see – it should just be domination. That's what I'm expecting to see, just total domination and no real no real mental errors on the defense. That should be cleaned up. It's been preached this week to be cleaned up. And if we see that result, then maybe we could see how the team talks about fixing those errors. Maybe they can actually fix them instead of talk about how they need to fix them, which is what showed up in the Colorado game, really.
Yeah, Richard made a good point just now that I want to see how this plays out, because I was talking about the fact that I'd really like to see some more pressures from the defense, like blitzes, that type of thing. But you also have to realize, as Richard was saying, this is the type of opponent that maybe you play more of a base kind of vanilla scheme just because Houston's next week. You don't want to show everything that you have in the bag. So I'm sure it's a mix, but I think at the same time, like, they have to find a way to feel good about, bringing pressure from different angles, because they didn't do that super well against Colorado. Okay, so turning our attention to Sonny Dykes for a second. Obviously, last year, really couldn't have gone better. Aside from winning a Big 12 title and beating Georgia, you couldn't ask for anything more than what happened. People have brought up this week, this is now 3 out of their last 4 that they've lost. If you go back to last season, which I think it's kind of tough because every year is different. But Richard, have you lost any faith in this coaching staff or in Sonny Dykes specifically over the last few games, or do you just feel like this is a weird stretch with obviously a long off season in between, and they can turn this thing around?
I believe this is something that we expected to see last year. With new coach coming in, we expected to see pre-snap penalties. We expected to see adversity, maybe not with Colorado in week 1 the way they were last year. We expected to see some adversity in Big 12 play, and it just didn't happen. So we were spoiled from the word go. The team started off. It was kind of shaky. I know some of the listeners have mentioned that Quentin Johnson was not really a factor until the Kansas game. And, I can agree with that. I didn't really see him being a huge factor. And then he had the Kansas game, and he took off from there. The thing about last year's team that people default to is that, they were really experienced, and they were together a really long time. I know some listeners have alluded to that, and I just kind of wanted to bring that up as well. They were together for four years or so, and they were disciplined and ready. That previous coaching regime, they were a disciplined coach. So,
yeah, and I mean, Sonny's talked about that too. Like, just the fact that was a really player-led leadership group. Like, they, as you said, they have been through a lot together. They kind of been through some fires together with just the coaching staff overhaul and some losing seasons. And so when they got the opportunity with something in front of them to go be great, they really took it by the horns and said, okay, we're going to hold each other accountable. I don't know if maybe this team is still kind of developing that as we get early in the season. It's one of those things that you can't really teach. It just has to be there. So hopefully some of those intangible qualities will continue to get better and develop as the season goes on. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to do a quick ad read here, and then we're going to talk with Richard about what did he like or dislike from Chandler Morris on Saturday, and just kind of his initial thoughts of his performance. This is the Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. All right, I want to briefly talk to you about LinkedIn, and then we'll get right back to Richard here. LinkedIn, if you need to hire people, if you own a small business, go to LinkedIn Jobs today. You can add your job to their hashtag hiring frame and your LinkedIn profile and spread the word that you are making a hire. They have simple tools like screening questions to make it easy to focus on candidates with the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you want to interview and hire. You don't have to waste time with LinkedIn. They make it simple for you. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. It's the place to go if you need to hire somebody. Everybody knows LinkedIn. Huge brand name. LinkedIn Jobs/lockedoncollege. We thank them for being a sponsor of the Locked On Network. All right, so we're talking with Richard Berry, doing a little TCU Fan Corner segment today. So we talked about the defense and the coaching staff. Chandler Morris, from a stats perspective, pretty good game. Turned the ball over a couple times, which is not ideal, not the best completion percentage. But I guess just your overall thoughts, Richard, from Chandler's first game in a year, really, where he's been the full-time starter for this team.
I think what you can take away from it is that he did get better as the game went on. Yeah, he didn't take as many chances as we'd liked or complete the deep balls, but he seemed to settle in at the very beginning of the game. He was missing some receivers and overthrowing, underthrowing, however. And I know the tight ends bailed him out quite a bit in the intermediate passing game. So, but he did settle in. The Travis Hunter pick, I mean, you got to give props to Colorado. They come in and they showed out, and they took care of business. So, but every team's not going to have a Travis Hunter, but they will have good players. So, but he did seem to settle in, and he even ran for a touchdown in that game. So maybe a little bit of confidence. And to be honest, he never really was in any big games prior to that. You think, the Baylor game, he came in with no expectations. He had there was no wins or loss. The season was pretty much gone, so he come in with no expectations. He showed out, did really, really well. And then last year, with all the expectations, he showed up against Colorado, and essentially, he got hurt, but he wasn't doing too great before then. So I think it was big for him to kind of build on the performance he has. So if he comes out and he's pretty clean and is able to complete some deep throws, I think we're going to be all right. You got to get into Big 12 play, and you look across the Big 12 outside of Oklahoma, maybe beating somebody. What was it, 70 or 80 to nothing?
76-0. Yeah.
I mean, really, who stood out to you? Who really did well? I didn't really see anything that was threatening, so it's kind of up for grabs. So.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything that was huge. UCF and Cincinnati took care of business in their kind of early season warm-up opponent as well. And then Texas won by a couple scores against Rice. But overall, I think there's certainly a lot of time with the Big 12 for things to shake out. I liked what Chandler did. I think there's obviously a lot of room for growth. You're totally right. Not everybody's going to have a Travis Hunter. Won't see that guy again this year, hopefully, which is really good. You talked about him running for a touchdown, and I thought that was a huge moment in the game. I hope they do that more, Richard. I know he's not Max. He's not a tank. Like, he's not a guy that's going to take it 10 or 15 times. But if teams are going to continue to crash down on those running backs, his ability to just pull the ball and run, I mean, he's not a burner, but he's a decent athlete. So are you in agreement? Do you want to see him use his legs a little bit more maybe as the year goes on?
Yeah, obviously you don't want to see him use his legs in the next game. But, yeah, I would like to see basically what he did there, maybe pull it 2 or 3 times. You got to run him back. Monty Bailey, he showed out too. He was nothing short of exceptional. He was really, really good. I think Trey Sanders is your short yardage guy. So, yeah, I mean, don't let it be known that he's a running quarterback. That way, when they crash down on the running back, that he's gone. He's out. He's out the back door essentially, and scoring a touchdown or getting the easy first down. So, I kind of like the way his role may be, in the sense that just a little bit of running, sprinkle it in when you need it. I mean, he's going to probably be a little nervous, but I think that cleared a lot of that up with a little bit of runs that he did and that touchdown against Colorado. So.
Yeah, and I'd love to see him spread the ball around. I hope Savion Williams has a better game just for his confidence level. It wasn't his best effort on Saturday, and I know really all the receivers sort of struggled in different capacities. Dalen Wright had a nice game. J.P. Richardson did as well, but hopefully they are able to get the ball out to different players and get them in space. I got one more break here, and then when we come back, we'll close up with, okay, Richard, what are your expectations moving forward? We'll do that next year in Locked On Horned Frogs. FanDuel, if you're looking to make some money this NFL season, start betting on FanDuel. Were you sitting there last night and you thought before that game, Chiefs are banged up, I think the Lions are going to win this? Well, you should have gone to FanDuel, downloaded the app, made some money off it. If you put as little as $5 down, and this is if you go to FanDuel.com/lockdown, that's FanDuel.com/lockdown, you can get $500 in bonus bets guaranteed. You can also get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. It's the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use. You can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Okay, so before we go here, Richard, I don't know what your expectations were before the season, but have they changed any after this game against Colorado, or are you in the camp that they can bounce back in a huge way and still get this done?
I think the biggest thing for me was just being able to build programs. I believe that when TCU hit the field against Colorado, they'd kind of thought that maybe they were a little too good for Colorado. You can't meet the level of program success of Alabama, Georgia, and you don't have the players to do it yet. But how you get those players is you continue to win. So my expectation was at least a 9-win season at the minimum to be able to retain some of those recruits that are on the fence. You say, okay, maybe they did take a little bit of a step back, and they're still a really, really good team. They're a well-coached program, and 9 wins is nothing to really shake a stick at. So essentially, you look at 9 wins and you'll be able to bring in. I know 24 has some pretty exciting recruits coming in, and you continue to build. But one of the things I'd like to see for this season is just if Chandler seems a little shaky, lean on that running game. It didn't seem. I don't know how well Colorado's defense is. I guess we'll find out when they get into conference play. They play some pretty good offenses in Pac-12 this year, and they played a really good one. I still believe in us, and you got to think for the amount of mistakes that we had, they still put up 42 points. And, Colorado, they just didn't really – they played mistake-free football, and they beat you. And but I'd just like to see them utilize that run a little bit more. I would like to see – I don't know if it was Chandler or the offensive coordinator, but he really, really, really seemed to zone in on trying to pick on Travis Hunter in that game. And I was texting some old coworkers of mine, and I said, I didn't really understand why are you going to zone in on somebody that has clearly shown he's better than everybody on the field? And I think this was even after. No, this was before the interception, the crazy interception he had. And I was talking to my friends. I was like, you're going to mess around and you're going to find out. And that's exactly what they ended up doing. And for whatever reason, they just continued to attack him. And I'd like to see him, like you said, spread the ball out some more. You don't have to go after their number one guy. You don't have to prove anybody wrong. At the end of the day, you win the game and you didn't target Travis Hunter's side, then who really cares? I mean, you won. You move on. And, there's no real egos that need to be held in check. And I think maybe Sonny might have found, it kind of sounded like he alluded to maybe there are some egos in the locker room that need to be checked and maybe on the sideline. So that's kind of the way it seemed on whenever he had that post-game press conference that he was obviously upset about how it went. And, maybe they clean that up and just spread the ball out and maybe set Chandler up in the running game instead of trying to force feed something that's not there at the time.
Yeah, I think part of that too, and those are all good thoughts. I think part of that is Chandler's got to read the field more. There was too much last week where it felt like he was just predetermined, meditated on, okay, I got this guy. It's like, this is my read here. And I know they want to get the ball out quick. Like that's a function of this offense too, but you have to find a way to go through your progressions too and find the guy that's open. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Richard. Man, we appreciate having you on the show today. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No. Thank you, Stephen, for having me. Thanks for having a fan corner. I think it's really, really great. The show's doing good. You're picking up subscribers. So, keep it rolling. You're doing a really, really good job, and I'm enjoying the content, and I'm sure everybody else is too. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And thanks everybody listening or watching today. We'll be back Saturday night. I'll have something after the Nicholls State game, and then we'll roll along Monday morning as we typically do. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day.